Captain Jum Kim stood tall on the bridge of the Earth, ship Dauntless *. Today was important. Humans would meet aliens for the first time. After years of space travel, they had finally found another intelligent species, the Vrek. "Are you nervous, Captain?" asked his second-in-command. "A little," admitted Jun. "This meeting will shape the future of Earth." The view screen showed the Vrek ships. They were huge, at least 3 times bigger than the Dauntless *. They had strange shapes, like giant sea creatures made of metal. "They're hailing us," said the communications officer. "Put them on screen," ordered Jun. The screen changed to show a Vrek. It had gray skin with red spots and 6 eyes arranged in a circle. Its mouth was full of small, sharp teeth. "I am Admiral Kresh of the Vrek Confederacy," it said in a voice that sounded like grinding stones. The translation computer turned it into words humans could understand. "I am Captain Jum Kim of Earth," said Jun. "We come in peace and friendship." The meeting seemed to go well. They talked about trade, about sharing knowledge. The Vrek asked many questions about Earth. They seemed especially interested in Earth's animals. "Your planet has many predators," said Admiral Kresh. "Yes," agreed Jun. "Earth has a complex ecosystem. And yet your species survived without much physical strength," said the Vrek. "Interesting." After 2 hours of talking, Jun felt hopeful. This could be the beginning of a good relationship between humans and Vrek. Then the ship's sensors started beeping loudly. "Captain," called the sensor officer, "I'm detecting massive biological signatures coming from the Vrek ships." "What does that mean?" asked Jun. Before anyone could answer, the Vrek ships opened huge doors in their sides. Something was coming out. Many somethings. "Admiral Kresh," said Jun, trying to stay calm. "What is happening?" The Vrek showed all its teeth in what might have been a smile. "We are introducing you to our way of war, Captain. You see, in the galaxy, only the strong survive. And humans are not strong." The view screen showed what was coming out of the Vrek ships. They were monsters, huge creatures that looked like a mix of bear, lizard, and nightmare. They had thick armor on their bodies and teeth longer than a human arm. "War beasts," said Admiral Kresh with pride in its voice, "genetically engineered to kill. This is how the Vrek fight. Not with simple weapons, but with living weapons." "We came in peace," shouted Jun. "We offered friendship." "The Vrek do not befriend prey species," said the Admiral. "You may run now, if you wish. It makes the hunt more interesting." The screen went black. The war beasts were moving toward the Dauntless *. "Evasive action," ordered Jun. "All weapons ready." The ship turned hard, trying to get away. The weapons fired at the approaching monsters. Some of the beasts exploded, but there were too many. The first beast hit the ship like a missile. Alarms screamed throughout the Dauntless *. More impacts followed. "Hull breach on decks 3 and 4, shouted an officer. "The beasts are cutting through the ship," yelled another. Jun made the hardest decision of his life. Abandon ship. All crew to escape pods now. As they ran, they could hear the monsters tearing through the ship's corridors. The sounds of screaming told Jun that not everyone would make it out. Jun and half his crew escaped in pods. They watched from space as the Dauntless * was torn apart by the Vrek war beasts. "Record everything," ordered Jun, his face hard with anger. "Earth needs to see what happened here. They need to know what we're facing." As the escape pods headed for the nearest Earth colony, Jun could still hear Admiral Kresh's words in his mind. "The Vrek do not befriend prey species *. Humans would need to prove they were not prey. But how could they fight monsters like that? They would need to find monsters of their own." 6 months had passed since the Vrek attack. The sky over Seoul was gray with rain as military leaders from around the world gathered in the underground command center. The room was tense. On the large screen, The images of the Vrek war beasts played again and again. Giant creatures with sharp teeth and thick armor, killing humans with ease. Captain Jum Kim sat quietly in the back. His face still showed scars from the attack. He watched as generals argued about what to do next. "We must build bigger guns," said one general, hitting the table with his fist. "More ships is the answer," said another. The arguing went on for hours. Jum felt tired. These ideas would not work against the monsters he had seen. Then the door opened. A small woman with short gray hair walked in. Everyone became quiet. "Dr. Sue Park," announced the meeting leader, head of Distant Thunder. Jum had never heard of Distant Thunder. He sat up straight, suddenly interested. Sue walked to the front of the room without smiling. She plugged a small device into the computer. The screen changed to show a deep underground facility. "For 30 years, she said in a calm voice, we have been keeping a secret. Earth has its own monsters." The room erupted in questions. Sue waited for quiet before continuing. "Long before humans ruled Earth, other creatures were the top predators. We have found their DNA. We have brought some back." She showed images that made even the generals look uncomfortable. Massive sharks bigger than buses, snake-like creatures that could swallow a cow whole, things with claws and teeth that looked like they came from nightmares. "The Vrek think we are weak because we are small," said Sue. "They don't understand Earth's history. Our planet created killers far worse than their engineered beasts." Colonel Han Ta stood up from the other side of the room. He was tall with a serious face. "These creatures cannot be controlled," he said loudly. "I have seen the failed tests. They are too dangerous." Sue nodded at him. "That was true, Han. But we have made progress." She showed the next image. It was a human wearing what looked like a high-tech helmet. "We have developed a neural interface. It lets a human mind connect with the creatures. Early tests show we can guide their actions." "Guide is not control," said Han. "Tell them about the test subjects who went mad." The room grew silent again. "There have been problems," admitted Sue. "The human mind was not made to connect with such predators. But we are improving the technology." Jum found himself standing. He didn't remember deciding to stand. "I saw what the Vrek beasts did to my crew," he said. His voice was shaking. "If Earth has weapons that can fight them, we must use them." Many nodded in agreement, but Han wasn't finished. "You don't understand what she's suggesting," he said. "These aren't just animals. They are perfect killing machines with millions of years of evolution behind them. The Vrek made their war beasts, but our monsters made themselves through endless competition. They're smarter, more vicious." Sue turned to look at all the leaders in the room. "That is exactly why we will win," she said. "The Vrek think they know what monsters are. They don't. Their beasts are new creations. Ours are the real thing." The military leaders looked at each other. No one wanted to make this choice, but the images of dead colonists on the screen left little choice. "Show us everything," said the head general finally. "If we're going to do this, we need to know what we're dealing with." Sue smiled for the first time. "I was hoping you would say that. Captain Kim, would you like to see our facility? I think we could use someone with your experience." Jun nodded. He didn't know what he was agreeing to, but he knew one thing. He wanted the Vrek to pay for what they had done. "When do we start?" he asked. "Right now," said Sue. "The Vrek won't wait, and neither will our monsters." The elevator went down for a long time. June felt his ears pop 3 times before it finally stopped. Dr. Sue Park stood next to him, watching his face. "How deep are we?" asked June. 1 mile under the Pacific Ocean," said Sue. "We needed a place no one would find by accident." The doors opened to a huge cave. It was filled with lights, computers, and people in white coats, but June barely noticed them. His eyes went to the giant tanks that lined the walls. "Are those?" he started to ask. "Yes," said Sue. "Our answers to the Vrek war beasts." She led him to the first tank. Inside was water, dark and deep. At first, Jun saw nothing. Then something moved. It was huge, a shape like a shark, but 5 times bigger than any shark should be. Megalodon, said Sue. It hunted whales millions of years ago. We found its DNA in deep sea rocks and brought it back. The creature swam closer to the glass. Its teeth were as long as Jun's hand. How do you keep it in there? Asked Jun. Very strong glass, said Sue with a small smile. And it's not just a normal megalodon. We added some modern touches. She pointed to metal parts shining on the creature's head and back. Cybernetic enhancements. They help with the neural link. Jun looked at her. You really think someone can control this thing? Control is a strong word, said Sue. We prefer guide. And yes, we've had some success. Let me show you. She took him to another part of the facility. A young man named Jinwoo sat in a chair wearing a strange helmet with many wires. His eyes were closed. Jin is our best pilot, said Sue. He's going to show you what we can do. Jin opened his eyes. Ready for a test run, Doctor? Sue nodded and spoke into a small radio. Clear the test pool. Jin is going in. Jun followed them to a large round pool of dark water. Above it was a control room with many screens. On one screen, Jun could see the megalodon being moved from its tank to the test pool through a big pipe. Jin sat in a special chair near the pool. He put the helmet on and took a deep breath. Neuralink starting in 3, 2, 1, said a voice over the speakers. Jin's body suddenly went stiff. His hands gripped the chair arms. Jin, can you hear me? Asked Sue. Yes, said Jin, but his voice sounded strange, like he was far away. I can see through its eyes, so dark, so hungry. On the screens, Jun could see the megalodon moving in the test pool. It swam in a circle, then changed direction. It went left, then right, following a pattern. He's controlling it, said Jun with wonder. Guiding it, corrected Sue. The link goes both ways. Jin feels what the megalodon feels. Suddenly Jin made a pain noise. On the screen, the megalodon started swimming faster, hitting the walls of the pool. It's fighting me, said Jin, his voice strained. It wants to hunt. It's so hungry. End the test, ordered Sue. The team quickly removed Jin's helmet. He slumped in the chair, breathing hard. His nose was bleeding. What happened? Asked Jun. The older the predator, the harder it is to guide, explained Sue. Their instincts are very strong. Jin did well to maintain the link for 2 minutes. Jin wiped blood from his face. It's getting easier each time. I almost had it fully under control. Is this safe? Asked Jun. No, said a voice behind them. It was Colonel Han-Ta. It's not safe at all. Every neural pilot has suffered damage. Brain scans show changes we don't understand. Sue sighed. Han always sees the risks, never the progress. Because the risks are real, said Han. Tell him about the other specimens, Sue. The ones even more dangerous than the shark. Sue looked at Jun. Would you like to see them? Jun thought about his dead crew members, about the wreck beasts. Yes, he said. Show me everything. The alarm woke Jun from a troubled sleep. Red lights flashed in his quarters on the ship Defiance. 3 months had passed since he first saw the monsters in the underground base. Now he was in space again, heading toward danger. Captain, to the bridge, said a voice over the speakers. Jun rushed to the bridge, still putting on his jacket. The view screen showed a planet with green and blue colors. It was New Haven, an Earth colony with 50,000 people. Around it, wreck ships moved into attack position. They're back, said Jun. And they brought their war beasts again. Colonel Han stood nearby, looking worried. Are you sure we're ready for this? The pilots have barely had time to train. We don't have a choice, said Jun. The wreck are attacking now. In the ship's special hold, 3 huge containers held Earth's monsters. Each one was connected to a pilot room where the neural link would happen. Jin Woo sat in the first room, putting on his helmet. He would control the megalodon, now fitted with armor and weapons. In the second room, a young woman named Yun prepared to link with a massive snake-like creature called Titanobo. In the third room, a quiet man named Dai would link with the most dangerous beast, a thing the scientists simply called the Nightmare. No one knew exactly what ancient DNA they had used to make it. "All pilots, prepare for neural link," said June over the radio. "Remember your training. Guide, don't control. We release in 5 minutes." The ship moved closer to the battle. Through the windows, they could see wreck war beasts already attacking the colony. They were huge creatures, like a mix of bear and lizard, with armor plates and sharp claws. "Neural link starting now," said the computer voice. In their rooms, the 3 pilots stiffened as their minds connected with the ancient predators. Jin was calm, having done this many times in practice. Yun's hands shook slightly. Dai's face showed no emotion at all. "Link stable for all pilots," said the technician. "Ready to release." "Do it," ordered June. The bottom of the ship opened. 3 massive shapes fell toward the planet. The megalodon, now with metal fins that let it swim through air, moved fast toward a group of wreck beasts. The Titanobo, nearly as long as a train, slithered through the air with rocket boosters attached to its scales. The Nightmare was last to leave. It looked like no creature that had ever lived. Parts dinosaur, parts things even older, with cybernetic parts glowing red across its body. At first, the battle went well. Jin's megalodon bit through a wreck beast's armor like it was paper. But then things started to go wrong. "I can't hold it," shouted Yun over the radio. Her Titanobo stopped following commands and began attacking anything that moved. Wreck beasts, buildings, even people running in the streets. "Shut down her link," ordered June. But it was too late. One screamed and blood ran from her nose and ears. Her Titanobo went wild, destroying everything in its path. Jin was doing better with his megalodon, but the wreck beasts were surrounding him. There were too many. "We're losing," said Han, watching the screens. This was a mistake. Just then, Dai spoke for the first time since the battle began. His voice was strange, like 2 voices speaking at once. "No, we are not losing. We are hunting." On the screen, the Nightmare suddenly moved with impossible speed. It tore through 3 wreck beasts in seconds. It seemed to know where they would attack before they moved. "How is he doing that?" asked Han. Dr. Su, who had been quietly watching, smiled slightly. "He's not fighting the creature. He's become one with it." On the battlefield, the Nightmare continued its rampage. The wreck beasts began to retreat. For the first time ever, they were the prey, not the hunters. The colony was saved, but at a cost. When the pilots returned to the ship, Jin was exhausted but okay. Yun was taken straight to the medical bay, unconscious and bleeding. Dai walked calmly off his pod, but his eyes had changed. They looked older, wilder. "What happened out there?" June asked him. "I stopped trying to control it," said Da. "I let it in. And now, I understand." "Understand what?" asked June. Dai smiled, showing teeth that seemed sharper than before. "What it means to be the apex predator." The medical bay was quiet except for the beeping of machines. Dai sat on the edge of his bed while doctors checked his eyes and brain again. It had been 3 days since the battle. Yun was still unconscious in the next room. Jin had returned to duty after 1 day of rest. Dr. Su came in with a tablet in her hand. She looked at Dai with great interest. "How do you feel today?" she asked. "Strong," said Dai. "Different." Colonel Han and Captain Jun entered the room. They stood back, watching carefully. "Tell me about the connection," said Su. "What happened when you linked with the creature?" Dai looked at his hands as if seeing them for the first time. "At first, I tried to control it like in training, push my thoughts into its mind. That didn't work. It fought back. That's what happened to Yun, said June. Her creature broke free. Day nodded. I felt that happening to me too. But then I stopped pushing. Instead, I opened myself. Let the creature in. You did what? Asked Han with alarm. That's extremely dangerous. The neural link isn't meant to work that way. But it did work, said Da. He looked up, and everyone noticed his eyes again. They seemed to reflect light differently now. I stopped fighting against its nature and started working with it. Sue was writing notes quickly. This is fascinating. You achieved a deep bond instead of control. That's why you were so effective in battle. What was it like? Asked June. Inside its mind. Day was quiet for a moment. Ancient, powerful. It doesn't think like we do. It doesn't see enemies or friends. Just prey and not prey. But it's smart, smarter than we thought. It understands strategy, weakness, opportunity. A perfect predator, said Sue with something like admiration. This changes our approach, she continued, speaking to June and Han. We've been trying to force our will on the creatures. We should be forming partnerships instead. Han shook his head. Listen to yourselves. These aren't pets or tools. They're killing machines from Earth's most brutal past. Dad, did this creature's thoughts stay with you after the link ended? Day's face showed nothing. Yes, I still feel it. Like an echo in my mind. I can sense things I couldn't before. Smell fear, hear heartbeats. Han turned to June. This is exactly what I warned about. The link goes both ways. These creatures are changing our pilots. Before June could respond, an alarm sounded. Everyone rushed to the command center. On the big screen, they saw images from Earth's spy satellites. The Vrek are building something new, said the intelligence officer. Our sensors detect massive biological signatures in their shipyards. The images showed huge tanks filled with growing shapes. They were much bigger than the war beasts they have faced before. They're making bigger monsters, said June. They're adapting to counter ours. Sue looked at the images with a serious face. Then we need to adapt faster. We need more pilots who can achieve what Day did. Are you insane? Asked Han. Look what it did to him already. I'm right here, said Da calmly. And I'm fine. Better than fine. June looked between them, then made a decision. Dr. Sue, find me more pilots. Test them for compatibility with our remaining creatures. Colonel Han, you'll develop safety protocols to monitor the pilots' mental states. And me? Asked Da. You'll train the new pilots, said June. Teach them what you learned. How to bond with the creatures instead of fighting them. Day smiled slightly. They'll need to be special. Not everyone can handle the monsters in their head. Is it worth it? Han asked quietly. Saving humanity by becoming something else. No one had an answer for that. On the screen, the new Vrek war beasts continued to grow, getting ready for the next battle. In the medical bay, Yun finally opened her eyes. She started screaming and couldn't stop. He's perfect, said Dr. Sue, looking at the brain scan results. His patterns matched the creatures almost exactly. Captain June looked through the glass wall at the man sitting quietly in the waiting room. He was small and thin with short black hair. His name was Min. Nothing about him looked special. This is our best candidate, asked June with doubt in his voice. He looks like an office worker. That's his job, said Sue. He was an analyst in military intelligence. Very quiet, very controlled, but his psychological tests show something interesting beneath the surface. What's that? Asked June. Rage, said Sue simply. Carefully controlled, never shown. But it's there, burning deep, just like our biggest creature. They walked into the room. Min stood up and bowed slightly. You want me to be a pilot, he said. It wasn't a question. Yes, said Sue. You've been selected to join our program. Your mind shows strong compatibility with one of our specimens. Which one? asked Min. Sue and June exchanged looks. We call it the Alpha, said June. It's our largest and most dangerous specimen, a combination of several apex predators with enhanced capabilities. Min nodded as if this was normal information. When do I start? 2 days later, Min stood in front of a massive tank. Inside was darkness and movement. Something huge shifted in the shadows. Parts of it looked like a dinosaur, parts like big cats, and parts like nothing from Earth. Metal pieces shone on its body. This is the Alpha, said Da, who stood next to Min. It's much stronger than my creature, much smarter too. You're not afraid of it, noted Min. No, said Da, and neither are you. That's good. Fear makes the link harder. The training began. Min learned how to wear the neural link helmet. He practiced with small links, just seconds long. Unlike other pilots, he showed no distress. His face remained calm. After 2 weeks, they tried a full link. Min sat in a chair as technicians put the helmet on his head. Remember what I taught you, said Da. Don't fight it. Don't try to control it. Become its partner. Min nodded once. The link began. In the control room, Sue and Jun watched the brain monitors. They showed the 2 minds, human and monster, beginning to connect. His vital signs are stable, said a doctor with surprise. No stress response. On the screen showing the tank, the Alpha creature moved closer to the glass. It seemed to be looking directly at the cameras. 10 seconds of link, called out a technician. 20 seconds. 30 seconds. This was already longer than most first attempts. Everyone watched Min carefully for signs of distress. There were none. He sat perfectly still, eyes open but seeing something else. 1 minute of link, said the technician. His patterns are changing. Sue rushed to look at the brain scans. The creature's patterns and his are synchronizing. It's happening much faster than with Da. After 5 minutes, they ended the link. Min removed the helmet himself. How do you feel? Asked Sue. Complete, said Min. His voice was soft, but different somehow. Days passed. Min's training progressed faster than anyone had seen before. He could maintain the link for hours. The Alpha responded to his guidance perfectly. But the doctors began to notice changes in Min. He moved differently, smoother, quieter. His senses seemed sharper. He could hear conversations from across the room. He needed less sleep. His appetite changed. The link is affecting him too much, said Colonel Han during a private meeting with June. The military psychologists are worried. Min is showing predatory behaviors even when not linked. What kind of behaviors? Asked June. He watches people like their prey, said Han. The cafeteria staff say he only eats meat now, barely cooked. And yesterday, one of the technicians got nervous around him and Min said he could smell his fear. We need to stop this. June sighed. We can't. The Vrek will attack again soon with their new war beasts. We need Min and the Alpha ready. Outside the room, Min stood silently in the shadows. He had heard every word, despite the thick door between them. He smiled slightly, showing teeth that seemed sharper than before. In its tank, the Alpha creature did the same. The alarms woke everyone on the ship at 3 a.m. Captain June rushed to the command center, still wearing his sleek clothes. What's happening? He asked. The Vrek are attacking, said the officer on duty. Not one colony this time. 3 at once. The main screen showed 3 planets: New Hope, Frontier, and Terra Nova. Vrek ships surrounded all of them. They're testing us, said Colonel Han, who had just arrived. They know we don't have enough monsters to fight in 3 places at once. Dr. Sue looked at the data coming in. The new Vrek war beasts are on all 3 planets. They're bigger than before. Much bigger. June made a quick decision. Jin will take the Megalodon to New Hope. Dai and his creature will go to Frontier. Min and the Alpha will handle Terra Nova. Alone? Asked Han with alarm. Terra Nova has the most Vrek ships. Min and the Alpha are our strongest team, said June. And we have no choice. We need to split our forces. The pilots prepared quickly. Jin looked tired but determined. Dad was calm. Min seemed almost happy. Are you sure you can handle this alone? June asked Min before he entered his pilot chamber. Min smiled. We are never alone now, Captain. The Alpha and I are one. The monsters were loaded into their dropships. Jin and Dad launched first. Min's ship was last to leave. As the drops left, June and his crew watched the battles begin on the screens. At New Hope, Jin fought well. His megalodon tore through several wreck beasts, but there were many. Jin was struggling. At Frontier, Dai and his nightmare moved like shadows, killing quickly and vanishing. The wreck seemed confused, unable to track him. But everyone in the command center was watching Terra Nova. Min and the Alpha had landed in the middle of the wreck forces. They were surrounded by at least 20 new war beasts, each one bigger than a building. He's finished, said Han quietly. Then something extraordinary happened. The Alpha moved with impossible speed. It didn't just attack, it hunted. It seemed to know exactly where each wreck beast was weakest. It struck with perfect timing, wasting no movement. Look at the tactical readout, said Sue with wonder. The Alpha is moving in patterns. It's using strategy. That's impossible, said Han. These are animals. They don't understand tactics. Min does, said June. And the link between them is deeper than we thought. On the screen, the Alpha picked up a broken piece of a building and used it as a weapon to strike a wreck beast. No animal would think to use a tool like that. The synchronization is complete, said Sue. I can't tell where Min's thoughts end and the Alpha's instincts begin. The battle continued for hours. Jin was eventually pushed back, able to save only part of New Hope. Dad protected most of Frontier. But at Terra Nova, something amazing was happening. The wreck were retreating. Min and the Alpha had destroyed most of their war beasts. When the battle was over, the pilots returned to the ship. Jin was exhausted. Dai was injured but walking. Min stepped out of his chamber looking completely calm. How did you do that? Asked June. No single team has ever defeated that many wreck beasts. We understood them, said Min. His voice now had a strange double quality, as if two voices spoke at once. We knew what they would do before they did it. We, asked Han. Min smiled. The Alpha and I. We see through each other's eyes now. I feel what it feels. It thinks what I think. A doctor approached with a medical scanner. Sir, Min's brain activity is unusual. His patterns have completely changed. I am fine, said Min. Better than fine. Evolved. Colonel Han pulled June aside. This has gone too far. The creatures aren't just tools anymore. They're changing our people. Yes, agreed June, watching Min. But they're also winning the war. Later that night, June found Min in the observation room, looking at the stars. He noticed Min's eyes reflected light like an animal's eyes. What are you becoming? Asked June quietly. What we need to be, answered Min. To survive. That's what humans have always done, isn't it? Adapt or die. June had no answer for that. Outside, the stars continued to shine on 3 worlds where humans and monsters had fought together and won. The room was dark except for a single light shining on the prisoner. It was a wreck officer. Its skin was gray with red spots. It had 6 eyes and a mouth full of small, sharp teeth. Its hands were tied to the chair. June and Dr. Sue stood watching from behind a glass wall. Can it understand us? Asked June. Yes, said Sue. Our translation tech works with their language. This one is high-ranking, a ship commander. They entered the room. The wreck looked up at them with hate in its 6 eyes. Why did you attack us? Asked June simply. We never threatened you. The wreck made a sound like rocks grinding together. The translator turned it into words. You threatened us by existing, it said. That makes no sense, said June. We were peaceful. We wanted to trade with you. The Vrek showed its teeth in what might have been a smile. Humans don't understand. You never did. We attacked you because we feared you. Sue stepped closer. Feared us? Your war beasts were much stronger than our weapons. Not your weapons, said the Vrek. You, humans. The Vrek leaned forward as far as its ties would allow. All species in the galaxy created war beasts. It is normal. But other species made them as tools, as technology. You humans are different. How? Asked June. You evolved alongside your planet's predators, said the Vrek. Your intelligence developed specifically to outsmart creatures that could easily kill you. You didn't create monsters as technology. You survived them naturally. June and Sue looked at each other with surprise. Our study showed your planet's history, continued the Vrek. Earth has had the most dangerous natural predators we have ever seen. Yet you survived. You thrived. That made you the most dangerous species we had ever found. So you attacked us first, said June, understanding now. Before we could become a greater threat. Yes, said the Vrek. It was logical, but we did not understand one thing. What's that? Asked Sue. We thought our created war beasts would be superior to any natural creature, said the Vrek. We were wrong. Nature is more brutal than any lab. Your monsters evolved through endless competition. They are perfect. And now you have bonded with them. The Vrek seemed to shudder. The one who fights with the big black creature. The one you call Min. What is he becoming? Neither June nor Sue had an answer for that. Later, in the medical lab, they looked at brain scans of all the pilots. Jin's brain showed small changes. Dez showed larger ones. Min's barely looked human anymore. His neural patterns are rewiring, said the doctor. New connections forming every day. His brain is adapting to process information like the Alpha does. Is he still himself? Asked June. I don't know, admitted the doctor. The changes are happening too fast. Colonel Han joined them, looking at Min's scan with worry. We captured something interesting in the last battle, he said. Data from Vrek communications. They're planning a final attack. All their ships, all their war beasts. They're coming to Earth itself. When? Asked June. 3 days, said Han. They think this is their last chance, before we become too powerful. Are they right? Asked Sue quietly. Before anyone could answer, an alarm sounded from the Alpha's containment area. They rushed to see what was happening. The Alpha was growing. Its body was changing, becoming even larger and more powerful. And in his quarters, Min was changing too. His muscles were denser, his teeth sharper, his eyes glowed in the dark. What's happening to them? Asked June. Co-evolution, said Sue with both fear and wonder in her voice. They're changing each other. The neural link isn't just sharing thoughts. It's sharing DNA information too. Is he still human? Asked Han. I am still me, said Min from the doorway. They hadn't heard him approach. But I am more too. We are becoming what we need to be to survive. And what is that? Asked June. Min smiled, showing teeth that were definitely not human anymore. Earth's true apex predator, he said. Not human, not monster, both. The screen showed the Vrek fleet moving toward Earth. The final battle was coming. Space above Earth was filled with ships. Every human vessel that could fly had joined the defense. Behind them, the blue planet turned slowly, home to billions of people who didn't know how close danger was. On the bridge of the main ship, Captain June looked at the screen showing the approaching Vrek fleet. There were hundreds of ships, maybe thousands. They brought everything they have, said Colonel Han. This is their final attack. Dr. Sue stood nearby, checking data on her tablet. Our pilots are ready. Jin, Da, and 4 new ones. And Min. Where is Min now? Asked June. "In the launch bay with the Alpha," said Sue. They don't use the neural link equipment anymore. They are permanently connected now." The Vrek ships came closer. Scanners showed they carried hundreds of war beasts, each one bigger and more dangerous than the ones before. "Launch our defenders," ordered June. The bay doors opened. Earth's monsters flew out to meet the enemy. The Megalodon, now twice its original size. The Nightmare, moving like a shadow between stars. 4 new creatures, each one terrible in its own way. And then the Alpha appeared. It was huge now, bigger than any of the others. Parts of it glowed with energy. Min was there too, but changed. His body was covered in a suit that seemed to be part of him now. His movements matched the Alpha's exactly. The battle began. The Vrek released their war beasts. The two sides crashed together in space. At first, Earth's forces did well. Jin's Megalodon tore through enemy lines. Day's Nightmare confused and trapped Vrek beasts. The new monsters fought bravely. But there were too many Vrek. Slowly, Earth's defenders were pushed back. One of the new pilots was killed. Another was badly hurt. Even Jin was struggling. "We're losing," said Han, watching the battle maps. "No," said Jun. "Look there." He pointed to where Min and the Alpha were fighting. They moved as one being, anticipating every attack, countering with perfect timing. They weren't just fighting. They were hunting, systematically taking down the largest Vrek beasts first. "They're incredible," said Sue. "But even they can't defeat this many enemies." Just then, Min's voice came through the radio. It sounded strange, deeper, with echoes in it. "We need the others to follow our lead," he said. "Not fight separately. Hunt together, as a pack." June looked at Sue. "Can the other pilots do that?" "I don't know," she said. "They aren't connected like Min is." June made a decision. He opened the channel to all pilots. "Everyone, follow Min's lead. Move as he moves. Attack as he attacks. Trust him." In space, something changed. Earth's monsters began to work together. The Megalodon herded Vrek beasts toward the Nightmare, which struck from hiding. The others formed patterns, trapping enemies between them. Min and the Alpha led them like a general leads an army. The tide of battle slowly turned. On the main Vrek ship, the commander watched with growing fear. These weren't just animals fighting. This was strategy. Intelligence. The Vrek had created war beasts, but humans had become something else. Predators who could think. "Retreat," ordered the Vrek commander. Full retreat now. The Vrek ships began to turn away. Some escaped. Many didn't. When it was over, Earth had won. The pilots returned to the ship. Jin was tired but proud. Day seemed changed more than before. And Min walked differently now, moved differently. When he spoke, his voice carried strange harmonics. "They won't come back," he said to June. "They understand now." "Understand what?" asked June. "What they unleashed," said Min. "They thought they knew what monsters were. They didn't. They created war beasts, but Earth made predators through millions of years of evolution. And humans survived it all." "What happens now?" asked Han. "To you and the others. You're changing." Min looked out the window at Earth. "We are the next step. Not fully human anymore. Not fully beast. Both. Earth needed soldiers to fight this war. Now it needs guardians for what comes next." "And you'll be those guardians?" asked June. Min smiled with his not-quite-human face. "Yes, we'll protect humanity. It's still part of what we are." As the ship headed home to Earth, June wondered what the future would bring. Humans had tamed monsters to save themselves, but in the process had become something new. Something the galaxy had never seen before. The Vrek had unleashed war beasts. Humans had tamed worse. And now they had become the apex predators of the stars.